Friends, welcome back to my quilt room. And if you're new here, I'm so glad you stopped by. Today I have an interesting block for you. I found this online and it's called the Old Italian Block. It is a traditional block dated back to the late 1800s. This is what the block looks like. I did some samples and um, there's not much history on this block. I do love it because I'm Italian, so I thought, oh, I have to go with that one. So the block does, as I said, date back to the late 1800s, but also appeared in Barbara Backman's Encyclopedia of Pieced Quilt Patterns in 1930s, I think it was that it came out. So there is some mystery behind this block. Nobody knows why it's called the Old Italian Block. It is believed that it's possible that the original owner saw it, a pattern when they're in their travels to Italy, or based on a mosaic that they saw over there. So there is some mystery behind this block, but I really do love it, and I'm going to show you how to make it today, how we're going to piece it together, and I hope you stick around and let's get started. Okay, so for today's project, I'm going to be using a layer cake. And this layer cake it's called Stand Tall by Janet Ray Nesbitt for Harry Glass and Company. I got this layer cake probably 5 or 6 years ago, so I'm not sure you can find it anymore, but um, we're going to use this up. And I've already taken some of this out, so it's a little short, but what I did was I took my squares and I kind of divided them up into sort of lights and darks. I wanted to just do a contrast, like it could be lights and mediums, lights and darks, whatever. I really love this fabric though. It reminds me of, I don't know if you all remember Debbie Mum back in the late 80s. She was a fabric designer, and I just love this one because it reminds me of that. But so that's what I did. I just took took my fabrics and just went through it, and I probably took a lot of lights out of this already, but basically just put them into groups of contrasting colors. So what we're going to do is um, I'm going to take two of my squares, and I think I'll just do that one. And I'll show you how we're going to cut this up. So let me put that aside. And what we're going to do is we're going to take two squares and we're going to line them up. And they're both going to be face up. So actually, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to put the light one on top because I have to mark this. So let's put this light one on top. All right, so we have them lined up. And then what we're going to do is we're going to take a marker and a ruler, and I'm going to put this from corner to corner, and we're going to draw a line. And you can use any marking pen you want. This is a friction pen, so it will erase out as soon as I put heat to it. And then what you're going to do is you're going to measure from this line 1¼ inches over. So let me put my pen away because that's the last we're going to use of that for now. And I'm going to measure this 1¼ inches. And what I did was I just marked, just put some washi tape on the back of my ruler just so I knew where my 1¼ was, because it's very easy to get to not pay attention to that line because some of them was hard to see. So I'm going to put that 1¼ right on that line, and I'm going to cut. Oh my goodness. Oops. Oh. Okay, and then what you're going to do is, now if you have a rotating mat, you could certainly use that, but you're just going to take this and you're going to turn it because we're going to do that on the other side. So if you just turn it carefully, it should be fine. And then again, I'm going to line this up at 1 1/4 on that line. So right on that pen line, line up your 1 1/4, and then you're going to cut again. Okay, so now you're going to take these middle pieces and you're going to switch them. And what you're going to do is you're going to take the light colored and you're going to line this up from edge to edge. And you're going to sew a 1/4 inch down. And then when you're done that, you're going to take the other light piece and you're going to sew that to this edge. Then you're going to take the light piece and you're going to do the same thing with the dark. You're going to line this up, and then this one you're going to sew on this edge. Now you want to be careful because this is a bias edge, so it is a little stretchy, and it could stretch out if you're not gentle with it. So I didn't find that I had any problems with this. I just laid it on there gently and just sewed down, and it was perfectly fine. So we're going to go to the machine and we're going to sew that. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to take our first set and I'm going to line that top piece up with my middle piece, right sides together, and just get it as close to the edge as you can. Some of these will not go all the way to the edge, which is fine. We do have some play here when we trim this down. And I'm just going to sew a 1/4 inch straight down. Okay, so then I'm going to take this, fold it over, and I'm just going to just finger press real quick because we're going to iron it when we're done. Okay, and then I'm going to line up that next one, making sure that the edges meet, and I'm going to sew that one down. Okay, so that is our first block. And I'm going to take this back to the table along with my other one, and I'm going to sew, and I'll show you what the next step is. Okay, so we have our 2 blocks sewn down. So what I want to do before we go any further is to press these. So what you're going to do is, since we're going to recut these, you want to press your seams one way and one the other. So what I did was I took one and I pressed the middle out. And then I took the other one and pressed the middle in. So I just pull on that a little bit to make sure I don't have any overlaps on the front. Oops. Okay. And you can see that pen came right out. So now we have these pressed. So now we're going to cut these again. And what we're going to do is we're now going to go to the opposite corner and we're going to draw from here to here. So I'm going to take my ruler, go from this corner to this corner. and I'm going to draw a line. And then I'm going to do the same with this one. Okay. Then we're going to do the same thing we did before. We're going to take our ruler, measure out 1 1/4 from that line. And it should lay right on that line. And then we're going to cut. And I'm going to turn and cut again. 1 1/4 out from that line. Okay, and we're going to do the next one. And if you wanted to, the pattern did call for these, stacking these up, but I just found that I did not get accurate cuts when I laid them on top of one another. So I like to do the individual. Sometimes it's a little hard to see that, even that pen mark on the dark fabric. Okay, so now we want to take those middles and switch them again. And this is where we're going to nest our seams. Okay, so we're going to nest that seam right there. And then we're going to nest this seam. And because we ironed one in and one out, they should nest nicely together. Then I'm going to go to the other side and do that one. So if you're new and you've never nested seams before, basically what you're going to do is you're going to take your fabric, lay it right sides together, and as you see, one seam is going this way and one seam is going this way. And you're just going to take them. What I find the best way for me is to just take them and sort of rub it up against until it stops. And then you just want to make sure everything's lined up before you clip that down. And these seem to just be nesting right in there perfectly. Okay, so I'm going to take that to the machine and I'm going to sew this set and this set. And I'll be right back. Okay, so we have our 2 blocks now sewn down. And you can see the opposite, you can see the X now, opposite colors. And what I'm going to do now is to press these. And for this step, it doesn't matter how you press them because you're not going to be nesting seams anymore. So if you want to press them out, you can press them out. If you want to press them in, you can press them in. It really doesn't matter on this step. I think most of mine, I did it out like this. Okay, so now we have our 2 blocks. And what I did was I did all my blocks and then I laid them out on my design wall. And I'll show you that in a minute. But I just laid them all out to what looked appealing to me. So let me show you that real quick. Here's how I laid them out on my design board. And I just put them up here and just put them into a style that I liked. I tried to stay away from two colors of the same, um, or two patterns, I should say, of the same. And there was a lot of yellow and gold in here. So it was kind of a little difficult to spread that out. But I think I got them into a nice, pleasing coloration here. So I did do some ahead of time, some sashing, which I'm going to show you in a minute. But basically, you can just lay them out if you have a floor or a table or a wall, whatever. And then I'm going to show you now how to sash um, the blocks together, and then how to do the rows together. And again, I did sashing for this because I liked the definition of separating the blocks. You can do the style we did in my last video and just put them together, and that's what it would look like if you wanted to do that. But I really like the sashing. So that's what we're going to do for this. So I'm going to take the two blocks we just made, and I'm going to show you how to trim them down and how we're going to sash them together. So we have our block, and what we're going to do is we're going to put this together with our sandwich, and I'm going to show you how I'm going to quilt this first before we cut it down. So I took my backing, which is 10 inches, and my batting, which is 10 inches, because my block I'm going to cut down to 8 inches. Now you may get, it calls for 8.5, but because I used a layer cake and I measured most of my blocks, I didn't get 8.5 out of them. So I went down to 8.5. I went down to 8 inches. So you'll have to measure yours up and see what the smallest one for you is, and then you cut all your blocks the same way. So I'm going to layer my backing, my batting, and my block. And the way I quilted this was I just quilted in an X from this corner to this corner and this corner to this corner. And what I did was I took my ruler and I measured from corner to corner. Now, if you um, measure your center square, it should have come out to 2 inches, and mine did. So to get my center, I lined up this seam line here with my 1 inch mark on my ruler so that I knew I was going to get a perfect X. And that should coincide with your edges or from corner to corner. So then I took my hair marker, one of my favorite tools, and I just made a mark straight down. Then I did the same thing on this side. Took my 1 inch, laid it on my seam line, and that pretty much came to corner to corner. This one's a little off, but it doesn't matter because we're going to trim that down. So you're not even going to see that. And I'm going to mark this. And I know it's probably really hard for you to see, but there is the markings right here, which I'm going to sew on. So I'm going to take this to the machine and I'm going to sew my X, and I'll be right back. Okay, so now I have that all quilted down, and there's my X right here. And you can do any type of quilting you want. If you wanted to do like more stitch in the ditch around your triangles here or around your center, you can do that. You can do some free motion quilting, whatever appeals to you. That's what you'll do. So I'm going to iron this real quick just to have everything nice and flat. And now we're going to square this up. So how I did that was I grab my ruler, and what I did was I took the 45-inch on my ruler and I lined that up with my seam that I have going, or my stitching that I have going down the middle. So I laid that on top of there. Now to get my 8 inches, what I did was I put because this would be the center of the block, that should hit the 4-inch mark here. So that will give me 4 inches on each side to make my 8. So I put the 4-inch mark. First I lined up that 45, and then I put the 4-inch mark just about in the center there. And that gives me a little over 8 on these sides to square it up after I get my square cuts here. So I'm going to cut that. So that didn't cut. Yep. Now I'm going to take this top right and bring it down to the bottom left. And now I'm going to line up my 8-inch. Again, I'm still going to put my 45 on that stitch line. And my 8-inch on here and here. And that should actually put the 4-inch right in the center, and it does. So now I'm going to cut that. Okay. So there's my 8-inch block. And then there's the back. So now I'm going to get my sashing, and I'm going to show you how we're going to put our blocks together. Okay, so I have 2 of my blocks, and we're going to sash them together. So what I need for my sashing is a 1-inch strip that is either the length of or a little over. I usually go a little over when I put it on the first block. And then we need a 2-inch strip, which we're going to take and fold in half and iron, and then it will look like this. So now to connect these, I'm going to take the 1-inch, and with right sides together, we're going to line that up right on the edge. And then our 2-inch strip, we're going to take raw edge to raw edge, and we're going to line that up. And then I'm going to clip this down. And then we're going to sew a 1/4 inch straight down. So we have the back, and you want to double check that to make sure that that's lined up. So you have the back, right sides together, and then you have the front with your folded strip, raw edges together. So I'm going to take that to the machine, and I'm going to sew a 1/4 inch all the way down. Okay, so I have that all sewn down, a 1/4 inch. There's the front and the back. And what we're going to do now is we're going to take that back piece and we're going to fold that out. And I'm going to press that because we're going to take that and join that with our next block. So let me iron that real quick. Okay, so I also want to trim this off so that I can see where I'm lining it up with this block. So I'm going to take that excess. And if you didn't leave any excess, then of course you're fine. Okay. So now we're going to take this back piece and we're going to line it up right sides together. And we're going to line those 2 up with the raw edges, and then we're going to clip that. And now I'm going to sew a 1/4 inch all the way down. So I'll be right back. Okay, so now we have that sewn, our 1/4 inch, and now that joins the back piece. And now the front piece, it should lay down nicely. If you have a little extra or any bulk there, you can trim that down. But mine is just making it. So I'm going to iron that down. Let's see, it lays just exactly nice. And then I'm going to fold this over and I'm going to iron that too so it stays. And then you could pin this, or what I like to do is I like to use my my glue base and just put a few dots of glue because that seems to hold it. Okay. And then we just press that down. And then I usually just heat set it real quick. And then I'm going to top stitch this straight down, about 1/8 of an inch. So I'll do that and I'll be right back. And there we go. We have our top stitch right down about 1/4 of an inch, excuse me, about 1/8 of an inch straight down. And that's what it looks like on the back. You can really barely see it too, so because my thread matches pretty well. So now we're going to do that with all our blocks in a row. However many blocks you're doing in your row, you're going to join them the same way. I'm going to do that, and I'm going to grab 2 rows, and I will show you how to join the rows. Okay, so I have 1 row done. Let me remove this stuff. And I'm going to show you how to join this row to the rest of my quilt. And I already have a couple rows joined together here. So we're going to do this basically the same way. I have a long strip of my 1 inch to go all the way across. Now, if you have longer than the width of fabric, then you want to join your 2 strips together the same way you would if you were putting binding on. But mine fits, so I'm going to just with right sides together. I'm going to put that on the back of my quilt, lining that up on the edge. And I just put a few clips for now. I usually put more, at least one in each, between each of these. And then we're going to take our 2 inch strip, fold it in half, raw edges together, and we're going to put that on the top. So I'm going to join that up with my top and my backing strip. So I'm going to put a couple more clips in between just to hold it, because it looks like it wants to separate in between. So I want to make sure that nothing moves when I get it to the machine. Okay, so now I'm going to stitch a 1/4 inch all the way down, and I'll be right back after I do that. Okay, so we have that sewn down, and now I'm going to take this back piece and I'm going to bring that forward, and I'm going to iron that so it stays out so I can attach it to this piece. So let me do that real quick. Okay, so now we're going to attach this back piece to our top row. And first, I just realized I want to cut these off. Okay. So now we're going to attach this to our top row. And we also want to make sure that we are lining up our back seams together. So what I usually do is I will line this up. First, I want to make sure that my outside row is matching, or I'm sorry, my outside block is matching. So I will put a pin there or a clip and then line this up, making sure all our raw edges are together. And looks like it should fall right in line with my seam. I put lots of clips in this. And if you want to double check, you can always just flip this up. Oh, I have a touch now. Flip this up, and then you can kind of see where it's going to fall in line. And that looks pretty good to me. So now I'm going to take this to the machine and I'm going to sew my 1/4 inch all the way down. And I'll be right back after I do that. Okay, so here is our row finished. It's all sewn down. Here is the back of it. Flip the whole thing over. That looks really nice too. And all you would have to do is just bind it and you're done. That's what I love about Quilt As You Go, because it once you are finished putting things together, you are finished your whole quilt. So I'm going to put this up on my design wall so you can see it real quick. And that's the old Italian block. So this is what I have so far. I did 4 across and 4 down because I have other blocks I want to add to this. But this would really make a cute wall hanging just as is too. So here's the back. And that looks nice too. So I hope you enjoyed this block, the old Italian block. And I hope that you make yourself one because it is a lot of fun and you can do so much with this. And if you found this video helpful, I hope you give it a thumbs up and I hope you subscribe. And don't forget to hit that notification bell so that you know when my next video is out. So until my next one, happy sewing and sew something happy.